The dark truth about the transatlantic slave trade. History often speaks in numbers, dates, statistics, trade routes drawn on maps. But history rarely speaks about the screams, the tears, the final breaths taken in darkness. Behind every statistic was a human life, someone who loved, dreamed, and belonged to a family. This story is not comfortable, it is not distant, and it is not over. This is the dark truth about the transatlantic slave trade. Between the early 1500s and the late 1800s, Europe's global empires expanded rapidly. Plantations in the Americas demanded labor, and labor demanded profit. Instead of paid workers, European powers chose slavery. Over 12 million Africans were forcibly removed from their homelands and transported across the Atlantic Ocean. This system would shape the modern world, economically, politically, and socially. But it would do so at an unimaginable human cost. The transatlantic slave trade functioned as part of a larger system known as the triangular trade. From Europe came guns, metal goods, cloth, and alcohol. These items were exchanged in Africa for human beings. From Africa came enslaved people. From the Americas came sugar, cotton, tobacco, and coffee, products that fueled European wealth. The system was efficient, it was profitable, and it was brutally inhumane. People were no longer seen as people, they were inventory. Contrary to popular belief, many enslaved Africans were not captured directly by Europeans. Local rivalries were manipulated, weapons were traded for prisoners, entire regions were destabilized. Villages were attacked without warning, homes were burned, families were torn apart in minutes. Men were chained by the neck, women and children were dragged away. Anyone who resisted was often killed on the spot. For survivors, captivity was only the beginning. Along Africa's coastline, massive forts were built: Elmina Castle, Cape Coast Castle, Gorée Island. These were holding centers for human cargo. Inside, enslaved people were confined in dark, overcrowded dungeons for weeks or even months. The smell of death filled the air. Disease spread quickly. Hope slowly disappeared. At the end of these forts stood a doorway, known today as the Door of No Return. Once passed, there was no going back. The journey across the Atlantic Ocean was the most infamous stage of the slave trade. It was called the Middle Passage. Below deck, enslaved people were packed tightly together, often chained, lying side by side, unable to move. Food was minimal, water was rationed. Disease spread uncontrollably. Many died from starvation or illness. Others were thrown overboard. Some chose to jump into the ocean, believing death was better than a life in chains. Historians estimate that nearly 2 million people died during the Middle Passage alone. The Atlantic Ocean became a mass grave, without markers or names. Survivors were sold at auctions like animals. Families were separated forever. Children were taken from parents. Names were replaced. Identities erased. Enslaved people worked from dawn until nightfall on plantations across the Caribbean, Brazil, and the American South. Punishments were severe. Whippings were public. Fear was used as control. Yet even under these conditions, culture survived through music, storytelling, faith, and resistance. Resistance took many forms: work slowdowns, sabotage, escape, and revolt. The Haitian Revolution of 1791 was the most successful slave rebellion in history. Former slaves defeated colonial powers and founded the first Black Republic. It sent a powerful message to the world: oppression does not erase the human desire for freedom. By the 19th century, abolition movements gained strength. Britain outlawed the slave trade in 1807. The United States followed. Other nations slowly followed suit. Slavery itself ended decades later, often through war and bloodshed. But freedom did not mean equality. Former slaves were left without land, resources, or protection. The trauma of slavery did not disappear. It was passed down through generations. The transatlantic slave trade did not end when the chains were removed. Its legacy lives on, in global inequality, in systemic racism, and in forgotten histories. Remembering this past is not about assigning blame. It is about honoring truth and recognizing humanity. Because only by facing history honestly can we hope to build a more just future.